Last night I was half asleep on the couch, scrolling through questions and reading through comments like I do every night. And something hit me. I realized that one of the most common questions people ask, something I've seen hundreds of times, really needs a clear, straight up answer. No sugarcoating, no guessing, just the truth. So that's what I'm doing right now. I want to take a moment and finally explain what's really going on with this whole idea of a $5,000 Doge dividend. You've probably heard about it. Maybe someone told you it was coming soon. Maybe you saw a headline or got a message about it. Or maybe you've just been hoping, like so many others, that it's true, that something real is on the way. And listen, I get it. The thought of a $5,000 payment? That would be life-changing for a lot of folks right now, especially those on a fixed income. A check like that could mean groceries for months, or finally getting ahead on bills, or covering something critical like medical care or home repairs. So, of course, when this idea started spreading around, people paid attention. They got hopeful. And that's completely understandable. But what I'm about to say is probably not what some people want to hear. But it's the truth. And I want you to hear it from someone who isn't trying to hype things up, who isn't pushing fake deadlines, and who definitely isn't trying to trick you out of your information. I'm just here to tell you what's really going on and what might actually be possible down the line. Let's go back for a moment. In early February, out of nowhere, this rumor started spreading. It claimed the government was about to issue a $5,000 payment, what some were calling a Doge dividend, a rebate, a refund, or a reimbursement. The story was that the government had launched a cost-saving program called Doge that was already generating massive savings, so much so that they were going to take that money and send it out to households. Supposedly, up to 79 million households could get $5,000 each. And for a while, the headlines were everywhere. People started saying it was real. A few vague comments were made by officials that added to the speculation. Even some influencers started acting like it was already on the way. And that's when things really got confusing. Because here's the reality. There was never a real plan to issue those payments. Not officially, not legally, not in any structured, confirmed way. This wasn't a bill that passed. It wasn't an executive order. It wasn't in the federal budget. It was an idea, a possibility tied to the savings from this experimental program. And the truth is, those savings never showed up. Doge was supposed to save up to $2 trillion by cutting costs across agencies. That's where the money was supposed to come from. But so far, those savings haven't materialized, and there's no official mechanism in place to turn any savings into direct cash payments for Americans. In other words, the $5,000 Doge dividend was always conditional. It was never guaranteed. And now, months later, it's clear that payment is not happening. Not this week, not next month, not later this year. It's just not happening. There's no money, there's no law, there's no process. And anyone telling you that it's still coming is either misinformed, clickbaiting, or deliberately trying to mislead people who are desperate for help. Let's just take a step back and look at the facts. Doge was a temporary initiative launched earlier this year. Its goal was to cut unnecessary spending and increase efficiency across different parts of the government. And yes, if it had worked perfectly and if it had somehow saved trillions of dollars, there might have been room for something like a dividend. But that's a big if. And as it stands now, Doge is set to sunset next year, on July 4th, 2026. That was always the plan. It had an 18-month window to try to prove itself. But from everything we've seen so far, it's not saving the amount of money people thought it would, not even close. Some estimates say it may save a few hundred billion, and that's if everything goes smoothly between now and next summer. But even if it did manage to save that kind of money, there's still no pathway for turning those savings into personal payments. That would require new legislation. It would require congressional approval. It would need to go through committees, get scored, get funded, and then actually be signed into law. And none of that has happened. So what we're left with is a rumor that had a few vague public comments behind it, got amplified online, and turned into this viral idea that a $5,000 check was on the way. But it's not. And I think it's time people stop waiting around for something that was never promised in the first place. Now, just to be clear, this wasn't ever about tax refunds or pandemic stimulus. It wasn't based on income or hardship or even economic downturn. It was framed as a cost savings rebate, a refund from government efficiency. That's a totally different idea than the stimulus payments we've seen in the past. So even though people started calling it a stimulus or treating it like one, that's not what it was. It was hypothetical, and that matters. Because when people confuse those two things, it creates false hope. and in some cases, it opens the door for scams. I've been hearing about emails, texts, even robocalls going out telling people to click a link or submit their banking info to claim their Doge payment. That is a scam. There is no Doge dividend to claim. There is no application. No one should be asking you for your social security number, your bank account, or any kind of payment. If you get a message like that, delete it, report it, tell someone. This is how people get tricked into handing over their life savings. Please don't fall for it. So, where does that leave us? Is there any chance of getting real help? The answer is yes, but it won't come from Doge. If we're going to see another round of actual stimulus payments, it will be based on the state of the economy. If the economy starts to decline, if we hit a recession, if unemployment spikes, if inflation gets out of control again, then yes, Congress may step in with another round of economic relief, but that's going to depend on what happens in the next few months. That's the kind of stimulus that's tied to economic performance, not government savings. That kind of stimulus is real. It's happened before. And it could happen again if conditions warrant it. But no one should be holding their breath for a $5,000 Doge check. That ship has sailed. It was never real to begin with. And I hate to be the one to say it, but I'd rather you hear it from me, someone who wants to help, than from someone who's just going to string you along for views or clicks or ad revenue. A lot of times, when something sounds too good to be true, especially when it comes to government money, it usually is. That's why it's so important to ask questions and dig into the facts. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of a big number like $5,000, especially when things are tight. But if we don't separate fact from fiction, we end up wasting energy chasing shadows. This isn't just about one check or one rumor, it's about learning to spot what's real and what's not. Because when something legitimate does come along, we want to be ready, informed, and in the best position to take full advantage of it. Now, before I wrap this up, I do want to remind everyone, if you're on Medicare or nearing enrollment, there is something you can actually do today that will help you. Take a few minutes to call a licensed advisor who can go over your options with you. This isn't about selling you anything. It's about helping you find the best coverage for your specific situation. Maybe you need better drug coverage. Maybe you've got a condition that requires a certain specialist. Maybe you're overpaying and didn't even know there's a better plan available in your zip code. They'll walk you through all of that for free. It's easy, it's private, and a lot of folks end up saving serious money. I say this often because it's one of the most practical things you can do right now that could make a real difference. If you found this helpful, consider sharing it with someone you know, a family member, a neighbor, someone at church, anyone who's been waiting for that check or asking about the Doge dividend. Let them know what's really going on. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. It's completely free, and I post updates like this every single day. I'll always keep it honest, I'll always keep it clear, and I'll always tell you the truth, even when the truth is tough. Thanks so much for spending some time with me today. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and I'll see you in the next video.